I wanted to offer an update on our living wall between us and what is normally a busy road. It's a Saturday afternoon, so it's a little bit quieter. Keep in mind, anytime a car comes, I'll just remain silent so that I'm not competing for that sound. But I figured, well, part of the reason why we want this wall. Now that we're in dormancy season, it's a little bit easier to see the actual structure of this, and I wanted to review it for folks. I'll link here to past videos where I talk about the installation of this. Let's get into some detail on what's here. So this is the eastern side of our driveway, and by all accounts, in my mind, probably the nicest looking as far as this treatment. Year 2, it's kind of stunning how much there is here, and the real key player is this miscanthus grass. This is Miscanthus X giganteus, giant silvergrass. It gets about 14 feet tall. 2 years in the ground from just little nuggets down this whole line, planted every foot, and it's a very substantial thing. This does not spread by seed. It clumping spreads, so very slowly but steadily it'll keep getting thicker and thicker. I do offer this plant through my website. You're welcome to pick some up for me or find it elsewhere. But in a sunny position here, for orientation, that is due south, so due north. It's really beautiful, and it's going to look like this for the rest of the winter. So tons of visual interest, and then we'll cut it back to ground and use it as a mulch. And something that I thought was beautiful after the second year of this being here is this spring I cut back all of the stalks and laid them down. Let's see if I can find them. There are patches all through here of old stalks from last year. Where is it? I found them yesterday. But what I was noticing is that there's just so much mulch happening because of this plant. All the leaves that are falling off you can see laying down here, and since it's such a dense carboniferous material, the stalks from last year really persist. So for erosion protection and soil building and evaporation, it's just really a great soil building support plant. Just to the north of it we planted comfrey, and already year 2, with the amount of shade that's being cast on it, the comfrey is slowly dying out, which is kind of a rare thing to say about comfrey. But it's still there, and if we were to cut the miscanthus back, there'd be a wall of comfrey coming up right behind it to the north. The tree elements, which are just to the south of this miscanthus, are starting to come into their own. You can see the nitrogen fixers are really taking off first. So the alder's already about 12 feet tall. That'll be chop and dropped over time. The Carpathian walnuts are taking their time. This one's a little bit on the slow side. But behind me, if I look up, here's a Carpathian that's already taller than me. So in 2 years, I'm pretty proud of this little being. And so this has the right solar gain access to the south of it to be able to become a canopy tree and eventually start shading out the miscanthus. We've got Aronia in here that's doing pretty well for itself. Maybe not as much light as it likes. And the smoke bush is really holding on as well. This spring I added an additional layer to what's already a very dense system. So there's the miscanthus. To the south is the tree layer, which will fill out. To the south of that is all of our hops, air potato, and ground nuts, the climbing vines that work throughout. Really beautiful bonus is I noticed when the hops was in full vegetation, it was such a dense canopy in here that birds were nesting within it. Most of those nests have fallen out, but that was a really nice surprise. In fact, I see one. They're done with them now, but the birds were able to use the strength of this fencing coupled with the hops and the miscanthus to be able to weave some really nice nests for themselves. And of course that's our chicken yard just in there, so that's really sweet bonus layer of functionality that came from this. Let me look at that here. There we go. I went through this fall, just yesterday in fact, and cut down all the dead sunchoke stalks and laid them onto where the pathway will be more and more defined over time. Let me pause here. And I'm putting wood chips on top of that just to tidy it up and to make it a little bit more defined as to where walking is supposed to happen. In here, I don't have a tool with me, but let's see. Sunchokes are so amazing at conditioning soil that after just 2 years in the ground, you can simply put your hand into the soil. Keep in mind, this soil is just absolute BS. It's road crew soil. They redid the road here 3 years ago, and so this is just dead, non-organic matter soil that was deposited here 3 years ago. We've added tons of bales of hay, wood chips, compost, all this stuff to build up the fertility, but those sunchokes are conditioning the soil amazingly, and to be able to go in, well, certainly we're not going to eat the sunchokes that grow here, but this variety called Stampede, the stalks get 12 feet tall, 14 feet tall, and they make these huge tubers. So I'll be selling these through the website at some point. But can you believe, to go from inert, dead, gnarly sand fill from a road crew that a machine dumped here 3 years ago to that level of starch, or I guess inulin, food storage in the soil in 3 years is pretty amazing. These plants are just wonderful, and they're so close to each other. I mean, this is just 3 feet to the north of this miscanthus wall. The elderberries are able to do their thing. The hybrid willow, poplars that I put in this spring are now, some of them 9 feet tall. Perennial giant sunflower plant is dormant now. It doesn't have much left to offer. But this was a real beauty, loaded with flowers this summer. And now those seed heads are a source of high protein and fat food. They're micro sunflowers. Or sunflower seeds that the little birds can enjoy. So all in all, really proud of all these plants. Next to a road where every time a diesel truck drives by you can smell the fumes. Growing in dumpster soil and building a life for themselves. And it's pretty wonderful. On the west side, we've got these curly willows, which I'm just, now that they're dormant and I can actually see what's happened here, I'm kind of floored by this. These are 2 years. This is the second year in the ground. Last year was a historical drought. I pushed in cuttings. You can see the original cutting was cut to here, so I made them 5 feet tall. Just really push them into the ground. And they not only rooted, but they put on a ton of growth. Between last year and this year, they've now, some of them have gotten 8 or 9 feet tall. These will all get cut back in the spring so they get even bushier. In between them are sunchokes, valerian, there's red buds, there's chestnuts, there's aronias, there's hazelnuts, there's raspberries, there's yastaberries, there's red currants, there's skirret, there's Nanking cherry, blue false indigo bush. Massive amounts of plants all packed in here, and almost all of them alive and thriving. Not very impressive right now because it's dormant, but this gives you a chance to actually see the structure of this system, perhaps. I'd say all in all, between the edge of the road and where we begin gardening things we care about, southbound from here, between the west side and the east side, planted around 500 or 600 plants. Kind of obscene, but the more the merrier, especially because this is the low end of the property, so fertility that's leaking out of our systems can get scrubbed by this. So this is our dormant season update of just the second year of this wall being getting established. And I'll continue to share notes on this, but so far, very excited to see what's starting with this. Thanks for watching.